Let's jump in. Let's jump in. Let's get going today. Welcome in to the Hughes Initiatives Police Academy Police Applicant Prep Weekly Live. I know today is Friday, but every Thursday we go live 12 p.m. And there may be some scheduling changes depending on what kind of court I have on Thursday. But I am so glad that you are here. Thank you for coming in today and being here with me on this Friday. Today we are talking about qualified immunity. I'm teaching you this, and I'm breaking it down super simple for you about qualified immunity because there's a lot of misconceptions around this thing. There is a ton of misconceptions around qualified immunity, what it actually means, and who it actually applies to. Now, I have to first say that I apologize because I hadn't done my research. I think it was 2 years ago when I put a video out about qualified immunity, and it was a very emotion-based. Like I took it as a personal attack on law enforcement when people were talking about getting rid of qualified immunity. But through my research and my study, I have come to find that qualified immunity is not only a good thing, but it is much larger than law enforcement. It's much bigger than law enforcement. And we're going to talk about that today. Qualified immunity, what it is and what it is not. Again, thank you for joining me. I see a bunch of y'all jumped in here. Qualified immunity must be something you want to talk about. If you're here to talk about qualified immunity, give me a thumbs up in the comments because I'm so glad that you're here. Everyone that's here, man, so happy that you guys showed up on this Friday. All right. Yeah, give me a thumbs up. Yes. Robert, welcome into the Hughes Initiatives Police Academy. Robert, welcome in. I'm glad you're here today. All right. Welcome to class, folks. Y'all know how we do this. Y'all know how we do this every week, every Thursday. Today is Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on TikTok. We're getting into class. This is it's not just for police academy, police applicants, especially a subject like this, because it is important to know this information so that you can have an intelligent conversation rooted in facts, not in emotion, because you can't argue emotions. I think some of you guys are finding that out. You found that out certainly in the last political cycle, and you're finding it out right now. Can't argue emotion. So today, civil versus criminal. We'll start by separating civil court versus criminal court, because when you mix these up, that's where the confusion begins, especially around qualified immunity, right? It only applies to certain things. What qualified immunity is, we will explain it. I will break it down for you in its simplest form so that you know what the test is and what their standard is, and when it does and does not apply. We'll go through a couple quick scenarios as well. But today, y'all know how we do this. Every week, it never changes. We start off with our prayer and prayer. Bow your heads if you can. Close your eyes. Join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for bringing us together on this Friday, not a Thursday, same time, same place. Thank you for giving us the first blessing of the day, and that is waking us up. We know that not everyone was blessed with this gift of life. And so for that, Lord, we say thank you. Lord, we ask you that you hear our prayers, number one, but that you open the hearts and the minds of the people who join us today on this live as we break down such a sensitive topic at times. We ask that you not only allow the people here to receive the information, but to then go out, disseminate it, and apply it to their lives. Lord, bless the speaker. Bless me. Bless me, Lord. Bless me to speak with clarity and to give understanding where questions may exist so that people walk away with a full comprehension of what we're talking about. We ask that you bless our families and bless our travels as we do travel upon this impending winter storm, Lord. Put a hedge of protection around our homes and our vehicles. Bring us peace, bring us comfort, Lord. These things we ask in your precious and holy name. Amen. All right, y'all ready? Today's prayer. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. I try to stay away from politics through the Hughes Initiative. That's really not my lane. I don't spend a ton of time looking into that kind of stuff. I usually scroll past political stuff. That's not really relevant to me in my world. What I do find, though, is that conversations amongst us as a people have become way more standoffish, and way more black and white. And it has come to be that people would rather agree with and align themselves with people who make them feel good with what they say, as opposed to what the actual truth may be. Understand the world that we live in right now. It is dominated by narratives. It's dominated by videos and by words written and produced with a slant to invoke emotion in people to get them to do something, to get them to feel some type of way, to get them to agree ultimately with whatever that creator is trying to get their point to be. That's very, very dangerous as far as it goes, or as far as it relates to intellectual discourse, having conversations, intelligent conversations about topics. Because ultimately, what we want to do is come to a place where we can compromise and agree on something. That's the only way that solutions get had, situations get resolved, and tension goes away. We don't have to agree on everything. And there may be some situations that take a little longer to come to an agreement on. But a lot of this stuff that's happening right now is like, oh, this is what I believe, this is what I agree with. You don't believe in that? Screw you. Like, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to be friends with you. We've seen these kind of black and white, it's either black or white type of conversations, rip apart families, friends, neighborhoods, all of these things. We've seen this happen. And so in order to avoid that kind of stuff, we all have to take a step back, number one, remove the emotion from a lot of it, but we have to become better educated on these topics. Thank you for joining. If you're just now joining the live, I'd ask you to share it. Click the like, follow, and subscribe so you can be here. We do this every Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we're talking about qualified immunity. I would ask that you take a step back. What's up, man? What's up, Mr. IP? What's up? I would ask that you take a step back, take a deep breath, but you have to educate yourself. Y'all know the Hughes Initiative is all about education, removing the emotion and replacing it with education. That's one of our main taglines. Because with education, then we can have clarity, we can have understanding, and we can have real connection. Right? Because education is what brings all people together. Let's keep going. If you're trying to get into law enforcement, or you're in the process, and you're looking all over the internet, you're reading all these books, you don't know where to start, go to the link in my bio and download my free Police Academy Prep 20-day starter plan. Get that, download that. I will give you a little bit on how to handle every step of the process, fitness guide in there for you to get started. Right? You don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to search 50,000 different places for the information. It's right here, link in my bio. Click and download the free PDF. All right? Why does this matter? We're talking qualified immunity today. Why does this matter? Why is this important? As someone inside of law enforcement, we hear all the time about qualified immunity, what it is and what it is not. And actually, we hear about the removal of qualified immunity from a lot of people. When people hear the word immunity, they automatically think above the law, no consequences, protected no matter what. But that's not true. Qualified immunity is a rule, is a guide for judges about civil lawsuits for money. That's it. It's about civil lawsuits for money. I want to break this down because we have to. Remember, I said civil lawsuits. There's two courts, civil court, criminal court. Civil court is about lawsuits, money damages rather, and can someone be sued? That's where that lives. That's the only court for that, right? You file a lawsuit. So when you hear lawsuit, you don't think criminal court, which is where charges are, crimes, jail or prison. Did someone break the law? They're different. The penalties are different, but the standards in the thought process and the logic in both courts is different as well. Criminal court is about taking away someone's freedom. So the burden of proof is much higher. Civil court is about, can someone be sued for something? I mean, you can have the same incident and have two different outcomes. a la O.J. Simpson. In criminal court, was found not guilty. In civil court, was found liable and was sued for money. You understand see how that works? That's one of the most classic cases you have. OJ beat the charges in criminal court, but in civil court, the Goldman family was able to be made whole from a financial means. That's why it's important to understand the difference. All right. One line that clears the confusion. And we're gonna go a little deeper, but one line that clears the confusion. Qualified immunity only applies in a civil courtroom. It does not apply in a criminal court. It has no bearing. You won't hear it in criminal court. It's only in a civil court. It doesn't stop people from being charged. It doesn't stop prosecutions. And it does not override discipline from a department or firing. We're talking about law enforcement, but it actually branches out further because law enforcement isn't the only one, it is the only entity, rather, or the industry that has qualified immunity. All right. So as we start to get into it, remember that it's not just cops who get qualified immunity. You'll be surprised when I give you a list of the people who do get qualified immunity. Some of the people might be what you do for a living and didn't even know it. How about that? All right. Qualified immunity. We talking qualified immunity is only civil, lawsuits and money, not criminal. Here's what it is. It's a civil rule, right? It's not for criminal law. This is about lawsuits. Qualified immunity limits when a government employee can be sued for money for actions taken on the job. If you're just now joining live, thank you. This is the Hughes Initiative's Police Academy Police Applicant Weekly Prep. We meet every Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but this is Friday, and today we're talking qualified immunity to help you all understand it better and also to explain it better. I digress. Qualified immunity, it limits when a government employee can be sued for actions taken on the job. You did this. This is what happened. This is what you knew at the time. Can you be sued for it? That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Qualified immunity protects an officer, in this case, police officer, from being sued for money unless the officer violated a clearly established constitutional right. Now, I know that seems like a lot, but we're going to break that down step by step because it's very important that you understand what this definition is trying to say. Qualified immunity protects an officer from being sued for money unless the officer violated a clearly established constitutional right. Clearly established. That is a key phrase. Here's what the courts ask. Was what the officer did unconstitutional? Was it clearly established at the time? This is the civil court mindset that you must think of when you hear qualified immunity. Was what the officer did unconstitutional? Was it clearly established that it was unconstitutional at the time? Not after. At the time, right? Qualified immunity does not take into account what happens after the fact. At that very time, which is fair, at that very time, was it clearly established? So if the answer to question number one is yes, it was unconstitutional, and yes, it was clearly established, then the case moves forward with no qualified immunity. If the answer was no, it wasn't unconstitutional, or yes, but it was no, that it wasn't clearly established, then qualified immunity can apply. Let me slow down right there. If it was unconstitutional at the time, but the officer didn't know it, then qualified immunity could apply. I'm not going to say it will apply every time. It could apply. If it was not, was what the officer did unconstitutional? If it was no, and was it clearly established? And if that answer is no, then qualified immunity applies because there's no violation. Josh, what does the court consider clearly established? Josh, I don't know if you've been here before, but y'all can't get ahead of me. We're going to talk about that. Y'all know I go off into wild tangents. Those who know me know I go off into wild tangents. We will get there. All right? So let's go over it one more time. The courts asked these two questions. Was it unconstitutional at the time? And was it clearly established at the time? If it was unconstitutional and clearly established, then qualified immunity doesn't apply. Doesn't apply. If it was unconstitutional but wasn't clearly established, then it can apply. And if it was unconstitutional and it wasn't clearly established, then qualified immunity is going to apply. It's going to apply because there's no violation there. All right, let's keep going. Josh, you asked a great question. Clearly established does not mean common sense. It doesn't mean what feels obvious or what feels morally wrong. Clearly established simply means this in its most simplest form. Did a court already say this exact thing was impermissible for a police officer to do? That's it. Was the line drawn here before? And don't get out into the weeds, well, there was something similar or this case is like that. That's not what it's for. That's not what that question is asking. Clearly established means, has this thing been discussed and decided as unconstitutional? This is why you see qualified immunity apply in so many cases with law enforcement where people think that it shouldn't. Because it's not about common sense, or he should have knew better, or that feels obvious that they should have known that, or that just feels wrong. That's not how court works. That is not how court works on any level, to be completely honest. It's not about the emotion. Was there a precedent set with this thing? Did a judge somewhere, did a group of judges, did they say, this is unconstitutional? That's what clearly established means, Josh. So you take that with you, because that's very important that you understand it. Because there will be multiple situations that happen, especially in dealing with law enforcement, because of the nature of the job. There will be multiple things that happen that will go to civil court, right? Not criminal court. That will go to civil court. And qualified immunity will apply, and people will be up in arms. Oh, cops get away with everything. Cops get away with everything. They're never held accountable. The challenge that people face is not understanding that whatever happened probably hadn't been discussed yet. It probably hadn't been discussed. The situation probably had not been presented in this way that it happened. So, yes, qualified immunity could apply. And a lot of times it does apply because nothing has been clearly established. I mean, there are a handful of things that a police officer could do that are unconstitutional, and those are known about. But in a certain situation that an officer is presented with, if a judge hasn't decided on it yet or made a decision about that exact thing, then qualified immunity certainly would apply. I know for some people it's tough, right? It's tough to understand that. It is tough to accept it, but this is what it is. And now we get off on a little sidebar about the presentation of court cases to judges. Understand this. Josh says, thanks. Seems like it would be hard to prove the officer knew better, but acted maliciously anyway. It would be hard because that's usually not the case. Right. Now let's get off a little side into how court cases are presented. Not every piece of evidence makes it in front of the judge. Right? There's discovery and then there's suppression. And there may be multiple suppression hearings. And attorneys bring an argument, and good attorneys, which are most, attorneys bring an argument to the judge in an effort to get certain things suppressed. If it's a DUI, say it's blood results, maybe an attorney brings an argument about chain of custody. Meaning it went from, there was a misstep in going from the police, from the nurse to the police officer to the lab. Maybe the blood was taken while the person was unconscious, something like that. And then that evidence gets suppressed. I've seen narcotics be suppressed because the search was bad. Okay, now if the narcotics don't make it to the trial and the prosecution still wants to go forward, they have to go forward with no mention of the drugs, like zero mention. So understand, not everything makes it in front of a judge, not everything makes it in front of a jury, which is why you see some of the outcomes that you see. People think it's a foregone conclusion that someone's going to get convicted, but they don't come to the trial and they don't see that the weapon that was used got suppressed because the search warrant was shaky or because the way it was found was shaky. So then you go there and the prosecution talks about all these different things, but they never talk about that one, not necessarily a needle in the haystack, but that one thing that their case really hung on, that the defense got suppressed. So understand that about court cases as well. Not everything makes it. It's like I make macaroni and cheese this way. I say I use a cheese sauce, but you make it a different way. This is the job of attorneys to bring the best presentation forward with the ingredients that they are allowed to have. Some court cases don't have no cheese. They don't have no cheese to it. There's no substance to it, right? Some have too much, right? Or some defenses try too hard. Michael said the law is now black and white. Yes. And conversations are not black and white either, Michael, which is what we talked about at the beginning. Context matters. The things that happen during the course of a situation matter, especially in court. In the court of public opinion, maybe not. People will look at a video, see 30 seconds of it and say, oh, this person is wrong. But when you have the full video, then you come to a different conclusion. You arrive at a different place because there's more context added. That's what's important to understand, especially as it relates to clearly established and qualified immunity. So civil and criminal are two different lanes, same incidents, different rules. All right, fair notice. This is a big part as well. Fair notice. Was this already written down clearly enough so that a police officer would have known to not do this? Was this unconstitutional? And was this clearly defined? Was the police officer given fair notice that this thing is wrong? Don't do that. That's what case law is for us. Like Pennsylvania versus Mims, which we talk about a lot in law enforcement and in regular society as well. Michael says court system sounds like a big smoke show. I don't think that's what it is. The founders of the Constitution created law because it was necessary and relevant. It was necessary and relevant. So I don't believe it's a big smoke show. What it is good arguments. It takes skill to be a good lawyer. It takes good skill and good judgment to be a good judge, discernment rather, to be a judge. It's an art form, so to speak, but so is a lot of other things. Like this, what I'm doing right now. It takes skill to do this. You got to practice, right? But you also have to be knowledgeable. Because if you're not a good attorney and you go up there with a case and you don't know actually what you're talking about, it's going to be a quick case and you're going to lose. So certainly not a big smoke screen. But I understand why people say that, because they don't come to court. When's the last time, not you specifically, Michael, but when's the last time you went to a trial and sat in the back and watched it play out? You have a different understanding for court when you sit inside of a trial and watch it play out. All right. So fair notice. The rule was already written down clearly enough that a reasonable officer would know, don't do that. Because the courts avoid punishing people for breaking rules that weren't clearly set. And that's fair as well. That's like being a parent and getting mad at your kid for not knowing how to tie their shoes. If you never taught them or you never told them, then how can the expectation be that they would just miraculously do this thing? I mean, there are some geniuses out there, but that's not the average child. So understanding that the courts they just don't punish people for things that weren't known. Right? It's written down like ignorance is not a defense in some things. As American citizens, that's for you to know. This is why we study. This is why we read our Constitution, our state constitution. This is why it's important to be close to government in that way so that you know. Because the Constitution is a living, breathing document, and that is true for every state. Every state's constitution is constantly changing. We get updates, throughout the year as law enforcement about important and significant court cases. Understand, paralegals and lawyers have a lot of time to go and research and find court cases that are similar and bring it to the court in an effort to try to get a judge to see it their way. And the judge has to then determine what's fair notice given. And as law enforcement, we don't have that dearth of time, that wealth of time to look at all these things. And there's cases that get lost from the prosecution because defense attorneys have brought up a case that people didn't know existed. So the government asks, or the judges ask, the judicial system asks, was fair notice given? Did you know this? Not should you have known this. Did you know this? Right? Don't do this. All right, and this is why people also get angry. How could you not know this? The response from the courts is that no court has said it yet. Right? This is what we talk about when we say clearly defined. Has a court drawn a line on this exact thing? It can be a tough pill to swallow, I understand. Clearly established doesn't mean common sense. It means like the court already said it. That was the thing. All right. So this is the gap that creates frustration, right? When you think you know what the outcome is going to be, and then the outcome is completely different. This is where emotion gets involved. We see situations with law enforcement where they take action, they use force, and it's ugly. Because force, when you use force, it's always ugly. It's never going to be pretty. It's always ugly. And people see the short video of a police officer using force against someone, and they say that's unconstitutional. And that this person should be arrested. And then they protest, and they march, and they get on the internet, and they say all these things. And this person goes to court. Civil court, criminal court. One or the other, or both. Qualified immunity will have applied in the civil court. Charges will be dismissed in the criminal court. Why? Why is that? Because people don't know the rules for qualified immunity, which we're talking about today. And also, the courts really do lean towards the understanding that being an American police officer is, I say, the world's most dangerous job. But it's also a tough job too. In that there's so many moving parts at times, and the situation is dynamic because the human element is involved. So when people think someone should be charged for how they handle situations, and they're not, they become upset. Rahan says, thank God we have body cameras. As someone in law enforcement, I thank God we have body cameras too. Body cameras have done a miraculous job for law enforcement. Absolutely great job. Because what they show is that it is usually not the police officer. There's actually more times where the American citizen, in my opinion, I will say my opinion because I don't know the stats specifically, but body cameras have exonerated a lot of police officers from allegations and really, really helped to add that context that is beyond just the word of a person and the word of a police officer. I'm the first to tell you, the word of law enforcement has deteriorated over the years. From abuse, misuse, straight up lying, everything. That word is deteriorated. Body cameras are restoring that word. Yes. So people think that, it's going to catch police officers doing the wrong thing. And in all actuality, not only does it catch that, but it catches American citizens doing the wrong thing. And it also highlights a lack of education in situations, in areas rather, where American citizens should be knowledgeable. It's one thing to sit here and listen to me give you this education. It's another thing to be on another social media platform for 3 hours when you could be reading about the Constitution or doing your research on a topic that you're truly interested in. Alex says, hey, sir, I'm 20 and I'm wondering best route to take to be a police officer. Alex, click the link in the bio, download the free PDF and get started there. That's what we do for that. The confusion, the anger, I understand it. But this is what we do at the Hughes Initiative. The goal is to remove the emotion and replace it with education. Because that's what's important. Because people who know this stuff are not the ones that are out in front protest. Those are people who are uneducated in this space. Uneducated on these things. But emotion is what drives engagement on social media. Understand the social media algorithms and the people who create them are doing so that they can drive engagement. The news does it. Social media platforms do it. Newspapers do it. At the very beginning, we talked about narratives and things being written with a slant and created with a slant. That's done intentionally. That's done to generate revenue, to make money. That's what it is. And we fall into these traps often. We walk right into these traps. We saw this with a few of the protests over the last, call it 10, 15 years, where we find that what was told to us was untrue. And that the real premise behind it was money. But because when you are uneducated, you are gullible. And you are more prone to fall into the nice words of a person or a group. Right? And being a police officer, when I go to calls and it's dealing with domestics, I tell people, listen, there's your side, there's your side, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Right? It's never as black and white as people say. There's always things left out. I go to domestics between men and women, and they don't tell me about all the inner workings of their relationship and what actually this is about. I try to get to the root of it, which usually goes beyond just the reason that I'm there that day or night. But there's always some behind the scenes stuff going on that has led to this point, but nobody wants to talk about that because they don't think that that's important, but in all actuality, it's very relevant. So it's actually very important that you look at both sides of the situation, and not necessarily politically, but in every situation. Gather information from one side, gather information from the other, and then come to your own conclusion. But don't dismiss one side because you don't like the person given the information or of the way it makes you feel. Because in court, the truth is emotionless, right? It's fairly black and white in how it's presented. Lawyers try to craft arguments to make you feel a certain way. But if you just look at the facts, then you arrive at a conclusion that 11 other people could arrive at as well. That's what happens. That's what happens. It's not about, listen, don't let the internet fool you, trick you, guide you down a path, mislead you to misconception and to being, I don't want to say being wrong, but just being miseducated. Because that's what happens. Yeah, see, I went off on a tangent to you. Y'all do this to me all the time. All right. This is what qualified immunity does not do. It does not make illegal conduct legal. It doesn't protect criminal behavior. It doesn't prevent you from getting fired or disciplined. And it doesn't stop prosecutors from charging you. That stuff is administrative through your department, and it's also criminal court. Right? Like, you can't unalive someone as a police officer unjustly and then, claim qualified immunity. No. You're still going to get charged. You're still going to get charged. That still happens. If you're just now joining live, thank you. This is our weekly Police Academy Police Application Prep. We're talking qualified immunity. If you're just now joining, thank you so much. Share the live. I appreciate you being here. As we come to the back end of this stuff, remember, qualified immunity asks two questions. Was the conduct unconstitutional? And was it clearly established that it was unconstitutional at the time? Those are the two questions you have to ask yourself, right? Was it unconstitutional? Was it clearly established? Would the police officer have had fair notice? And those are the two questions. Vaughn, in the academy, y'all pause, clap it up for Vaughn in the academy right now. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I've been watching your videos for a while. I appreciate you being here, Vaughn. I thank you for the support as you go through the academy. If no one else tells you, y'all know how I get down. Vaughn, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the steps that you've taken to get to this point. You've had to sacrifice a lot. You've had to challenge yourself a lot. I know you have. On an emotional level, on a mental level, and maybe even physically. But you had to keep walking forward despite knowing what the future held for you. And right now you're in the academy, and what I would tell you to do is to fall in love with the process. The day-to-day routine, fall in love with that. Let it build your foundation and continue to push yourself. And also understand this, the academy is about survival, right? The greatest person in your class with the best grades or the greatest athlete does not necessarily equate to being the best police officer. Because last week we talked about field training, and I've seen the class award winners not make it through field training. I've seen that happen. It's about survival. It's about staying open, having an open mind about education, and about receiving criticism, constructive criticism from those around you in an effort to be better and to always, 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 always continue to learn. Because that's how you become a good police officer. Your boy RC learns something new all the time. I strive to learn something new and learn it from people around me who do things better than I do. All right, let's jump into some scenarios. All right, because it's one thing for me to talk about it. Let's put it in a different frame. An officer following policy during an emergency. Someone gets hurt. No court has ruled that exact conduct unconstitutional yet. In the comments, does qualified immunity apply? Yes or no? An officer follows policy during an emergency. So he's in policy with his department. Someone gets hurt. No court has ruled that exact conduct unconstitutional yet. Remember what we talked about. Does qualified immunity apply? Yes or no? All right? It likely does. You can file a civil lawsuit, but qualified immunity can apply. And why can it apply? Why can it apply? Because no court has ruled that exact conduct unconstitutional yet, right? That's the second part. Clearly established. Has it been clearly established that this conduct in this scenario is unconstitutional? Has a police officer been given fair notice to not do that? That's the question that you have to ask, right? Within policy, but someone ultimately ends up getting hurt, which happens at times, even though you're within policy. But no court has said that that's unconstitutional, so qualified immunity would likely apply. People can file a lawsuit all day long. Like that's not an issue. People file lawsuits for everything, which is one of the reasons that qualified immunity applies to stop that from happening. Scenario number two. The exams in the Tennessee Academy aren't hard as long as you pay attention and take notes. Take notes that my Titans just hired Robert Saleh. How about you take note of that? Take note of that. All right. It's scenario number 2. An officer uses a type of force that the courts have already clearly ruled unconstitutional. Does qualified immunity apply? Think about our test. Is the action or the conduct unconstitutional? And has a court already said this thing is unconstitutional? Does qualified immunity apply? No, it does not. If it's already illegal and a court has already said it's illegal or unconstitutional, then there will be no qualified immunity. not only can you be prepared to get sued, but potentially criminally charged as well. So you'd be looking at both. You'd be looking at both. All right. Our last scenario number 3. 3 answers to this one. An officer is intoxicated. Gather myself. An officer is intoxicated on duty and harms someone. Does qualified immunity apply? Yes or no? We're going to break this down. Criminal charge is possible. And is discipline and firing possible as well? An officer is intoxicated on duty and harms someone. Qualified immunity, does it apply? Criminal charges, are they possible? Can a police officer be disciplined and or fired as well? Qualified immunity would not apply. Criminal charges and discipline, yes. Why? Let's just build this scenario out a little further. A police officer is intoxicated on the job and is driving. Is being intoxicated to such a degree that you can no longer operate a motor vehicle safely, is that illegal? Yes, it is. That is DUI, OVI, DWI, wherever you may be. That has already been established as illegal. And then they hurt someone. People get hurt, they file lawsuits. So you can expect that for both. Right? Qualified immunity would not apply. Criminal charge is possible. Yep, it's possible. It's possible. I'm not saying it's always going to be a thing, but it's possible. And discipline and firing, is that possible as well? Yes, that is possible as well too. Right? This is why inside of our program, the EAR motto, and inside the book Dominate Your First Year as a Cop, which is available in the TikTok shop, we talk about the big 4 negative coping mechanisms: alcohol, drugs, inappropriate relationships, adult content, and gambling. These things that are already clearly defined and clearly established as illegal, and you do them on duty, man, you're going to be in for a tough few years, certainly a tough few months, in looking at losing your job. This is one of those situations where you know better than to do this. And so when you hurt someone and you have really no defense when you get to civil court, because those 2 questions are asked, and so then no, it's no qualified immunity, and then you're wide open, your department's wide open for fair game for a lawsuit. And a lot of departments have taken the position that whether qualified immunity applies or not, in an effort to get past this, they rather just pay. They rather just pay the person a sum of money. Some departments have that ability. As the old saying goes, sometimes you have to pay for your problems to go away. That's it. That's it right there in a nutshell. My thing is this: if there are officers who you know are an issue and you keep them, then as a department, it is you who is the problem. And ultimately, when these lawsuits come, you cannot be upset with anyone, because you knew it was a problem before. You knew this person was a problem before. You knew they were over aggressive. You knew they had shaky cases, and you did nothing about it. You did nothing about it. And so you created the problem yourself. Officer intoxicated on duty, Officer Batista, thank you for coming in, man. I love it when you come in. I love it when you're here. Officer intoxicated on duty. Some police departments won't fire you for your first DUI. I leave that up to the departments to make that decision. Some won't, some will. Some jobs will, some jobs won't. And so we leave that to them to decide. But understanding when that happens the first time, the question becomes, will this person get better, or will this continue and this person get worse? And that's a decision that the department is left to make. Same thing for the criminal charges. Will this person get better? Will this person get worse? Although a lot of times you get charged as a police officer, you are going to lose your job, which is fair, in my opinion. All right. In an effort to help you dominate your FTO period, we did our qualified immunity recap. The book Dominate Your First Year as a Cop, available in the TikTok shop. You don't want to go into law enforcement as a new police officer without reading this book. This is your guide. This is your manual. This is going to prepare you not only for life on the job, but life during your FTO period. We've got a budget in here. I don't have to sell you on this. There's been enough copies of this sold, and the reviews are wonderful. Lastly, I did want to tell you, when people say that we should get rid of qualified immunity for police officers, you have to understand it's not just for cops. Qualified immunity is for government, a government official. And so immediately we think about politicians, but no. Qualified immunity applies to police officers, teachers, principals, professors, court administration, your managers, your mayors, and your paramedics as well. So when you say get rid of qualified immunity for police officers, it's really not that easy because there's already a test. It'd be a different thing if it was everybody got qualified immunity and they use it every time. There's a test to see if it even applies or not. And that is, was the conduct unconstitutional? And was it clearly established that it was unconstitutional at the time, not after the fact, at the time that the conduct took place? Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this clarified this for you. I hope this cleared up the whole qualified immunity thing for you, so now that you can go out and educate other people and be educated yourself on these things. Next week, we are talking about the court case that is always, the slogan is, police officers have no duty to protect people. That's going to be a very interesting one, and you don't want to miss that. Again, thank you all for joining me on the Hughes Initiative's weekly Police Academy Police Applicant Prep. We did qualified immunity today. Next week, we are doing the saying police officers have no duty to protect. We're going to break that thing down just like we did this. Don't forget to click the like, follow, and subscribe. And join us next week, 12 p.m. on Thursday, Eastern Standard Time, right here on TikTok. I'm glad to have you. I'll see you. Have a blessed week. Have a great day.